Okay, welcome everybody. This is my presentation on the RR interval signal qualities of a heart rate monitor and an ECG Holter, both at rest and during exercise. The authors are right there, and it was published in the 19th of April 2019. The background behind this study is that it was designed to examine RR intervals, and if you don't know, that is defined as the time difference between heartbeats on an ECG. And the study conducted this while exercising and during rest, which in turn is important for assessing heart rate variability and reflecting changes in the autonomic nervous system. And on this little graph down here, you can see that RR intervals are the peaks on the ECG monitor versus the ST and TP intervals, which are a bit smaller. And we actually did do a lab specifically like this a few labs ago, and it was the Lab 5 Heart Physiology lab. And during this, we actually used the ECG monitors on participants and took their readings before and after exercise. I will say, being a participant, I did fully see the difference in RR intervals, and I felt it as well. But it was cool being able to see it on an actual device. And also in the lab, as I just said, we determined the RR intervals for participants. The main question that was asked during this lab is how accurate and reliable is the RR interval signal quality of a Holter monitor compared to just the Polar H10 chest strap, which is the chest strap is what most athletes use, and a Holter monitor is more of a medical grade device. And this test was also curious that how accurate is it both at rest and during exercise intensities? Which, you may be wondering, why is that important? And it's important because Holter monitors are just clinical devices. So these athletes are curious if what they're using is giving them the right feedback and the right data analysis that they were wondering. The different intensities during exercise can introduce different, movement artifacts and different disordered signals. So that's also a factor inside of this. And this method and study influences recommendations for future research and athletic monitoring going forward. The methods that were used during the study is that they took 10 healthy participants, 5 from each gender, and it is to be noted that they were all lean and physically fit. The ages ranged from 24.7, give or take, around 2 years old. Body height anywhere from 172, 8 above, 8 below. Body weight around 65 with 9 above, 9 below. And then a BMI of a 22. And again, giving that leeway of 1 above and 1 below. The experimental approach they took is that the participants served as their own controls, meaning they had no previous knowledge of what a normal at rest or at exercise ECG Holter should show. So each participant, was only going off of their own data analysis. I also took note that each interval was collected only by 5 controlled exercises and activities, so they didn't have any external factors influencing what was going on. Some key features are that the experimental design was controlled in a lab, again, not allowing for any of those external factors to take place, and that the measurements on both devices were taken simultaneously, which allowed for a direct comparison. This first image that you're going to see right here shows 3 different errors that were shown on an RR interval detection. The first one being, if you don't notice that the software failed to detect an R wave, which, ultimately results in a skipping an interval, which is a very important detail when you're determining R intervals. Looking down at the middle one, you can see that there's an incorrect detection right there. That isn't the R interval, and that again leads to an incorrect reading of an interval. And the bottom one had a little bit of a noise-related detection error, which was an interference, with the ECG monitor, again, allowing for an inaccurate interval reading. Moving forward, the second image shows exactly where these monitors are supposed to be hooked up onto the chest, which you'd think maybe isn't the most important thing, but it actually is one of the most important things when it comes to testing for these. Um, it is very important that these are placed in these specific locations because if electrodes are misplaced, the signal could be weak or disoriented, leading to errors in the analysis. And the correct placement minimizes interference from muscle activity, movement, poor skin contact, which all in some can relate false peaks or missed beats. This final image shows just a general idea of the RR interval signal qualities and the total missing intervals and the errors from this study. One thing you can note is that the jogging and strength training contain the most errors by far, which is most likely due to the intense movement on the monitors. As we stated before, a lot of exercise and movement, poor skin contact can all lead to misread errors. Some key findings I took away from this is that both devices did show high overall signal qualities, despite the errors. It was also noted that during low to moderate activities, both devices performed pretty much identical with low errors, but again, that's only during low to moderate activities. However, the study did suggest that the Polar H10 chest belt is a valid and practical tool and can be used by athletes. And it actually might even be preferable for high intensity or sport settings. Overall, this kind of tells us that the RR intervals remain measurable, again, if they are during rest and moderate activity, but during high intensity exercises, it creates a little bit more electrical noise and it might be a little bit harder to read some of those waves accurately. This is a big part to me. One thing I noticed that the limitations is that they had such a small sample size. They only had 10 participants and they weren't very generalizable. And what I mean by that is that they were all lean and physically fit, and none of them had any previous heart conditions, any previous, medical history. And the activity duration that they were doing was only 5 minutes per task, which during 5 minutes, is a lot different than an athlete's 45-minute workout. So one thing I think they could improve is obviously to extend the duration of their workouts and see if they still have the accurate readings, and also increase the sample size as well as get more diverse participants to see if this will work on anybody besides just lean and physically fit individuals. With that being said, here's my references for the study, and thank you.